Welcome back to the SALT Sideline Report. I am Leanna Haakons, and we are standing here at SALT, New York with Mr. Wonderful, Mr. WonderFi, investor in WonderFi, Kevin O'Leary. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So, Kevin, we have so much going on at SALT this week. We're here in real life. Thank goodness. It's great to be back. Tell us about the future of DeFi and how WonderFi, one of your current investments, is getting involved.
So the genesis of that investment was out of my own need. About 18 months ago, I started to divest out of commercial real estate, which had been a 31% holding in our operating company. And I was getting concerned about the way the economy was changing and wanted to divest out of real estate a little bit. We took it down from 31 to 8% and generated a lot of cash. And so when you're waiting to redeploy cash, you're looking for what yields you can make on it. And I went to my cash desk, said, what are we going to do with this? Because it was a significant position. And they said, we can get 21 basis points. I said, 21 basis points when inflation's 2.2%. I'm losing a lot of money every month. That's crazy. I'm losing value. What other ideas are there out there that I can deploy this capital with and stay liquid? And that's when we started to explore DeFi. And I'll give you an example. Using a stable coin like DAI or USDC, and it's really complicated to set up in terms of keeping compliant with your own internal compliance department. We were able to write contracts on some of that capital for 30, 60, 90 days and garner a yield of between 3.8 and 5.2%. So I was really intrigued with this because we just experimented with a small amount to see how it would work. And I went to my compliance department and said, look, I'd like to ratchet this up for this capital while we redeploy it into other assets. They said, no, we're not doing that. And I went to my external auditor and said, look, I want to do this because DeFi looks in, and they said, no, we're not doing that. There's no infrastructure to be compliant. And let me give you, it's just a very simple example. When you go, let's say you're running a $1 billion mandate in equities. The minute you make a trade, it's completely inside of the infrastructure it's been around for 100 years. There's a mark to market. They know if there's margin. At 401, it actually puts out a report saying what your positions are they compliant or not compliant? It reports to your compliance officer immediately. They then send that to the external auditor. They sign off on the audit on a quarterly basis, and then you file your regulatory reports. You cannot do that right now on DeFi. There's no compliant infrastructure. So it took me months to get that set up. But I was really attracted by that 5% yield. And I was able to do it using platforms like FTX and Circle and my external auditors and my internal compliance people. But I realized it's so hard to do, the average consumer can't do it. And that's what DeFi, tremendous potential is. My daughter, who wants to put her cash and make some yield on it, she's making nothing in her bank of whatever, and she wants to do DeFi. So we really built WonderFi for her.
So I love that it's simplifying a way for any investor, institutional or retail, I assume, to use WonderFi. But are you really focusing on the retail investor with this?
WonderFi is really a retail investor because if you're running in the indexing world I work in, I deal with sovereign funds and their mandates are 500 billion, 100 billion. They're not going to download an app and put $100 million in it, and nobody is. But the average investor can't do it easily because here's the problem right now with DeFi. When you trade or write a contract and you get interest in terms of USDC and you get paid back in USDC and then you convert it back to fiat currency USD, you are making interest and you have to report that to the tax regulator. And you may have a capital gain, you may have a capital loss, and you also have to record that and report it. There is no compliance. You have a 1099 form you have to deal with. WonderFi is solving for that. It's going to make it compliant and give you the reporting that allows you to report your taxes. So WonderFi is really for the retail investor. What I'm doing at the sort of institutional scale is different because I've had to hire a bunch of staff just to do the contracts I'm writing on my USDC right now. So I think decentralized finance is a really, really huge sea change in the financial services industry. It's going to cut costs, increase transparency, and do a lot of wonderful things, but it's going to have to be after the regulator approves it.
So all of the investments and the companies and partners you work with is really focused on sort of that key point of taking something in this alternative finance world of hedge funds and black boxes and things that regular retail investors find very confusing, simplifying it, making it transparent and accessible to retail investors with everything you do from beanstalks and everything else, crowdfunding. I love that. Here's a space in the alternatives world. We're talking a lot at SALT this week about NFTs, another kind of confusing, like, what does that really mean subject. How are you getting involved in NFTs? I know you have an interest there.
I do. I have made several investments in the NFT space. My most recent is with a company called Immutable Holdings, run by Jordan Freed is his name. He owns the URL NFT.com, and he's building profiles, NFT.com/name your brand. So he's gone through the S&P 500 and he's reserved all those brands for them. The space I'm most interested in a use case, my theory about NFTs, the early adoption is going to be around tying a physical asset to an NFT. And I'll give you an example. I'm a huge watch collector. The watch industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And the largest collectors in the world, their biggest problem is authenticating a piece after it's gone out of production. So let's say I want to buy a Patek Philippe that stopped production 20 years ago. Its value has skyrocketed. How do I know with certainty that it's not a fake? Is there any way for me to know that? Well, as a collector, I have to go to experts I know all around the world, send the piece there, sometimes have it opened up, try and get the factory to tell me the serial number is real from the original records, all of that stuff that could be solved with a single NFT. So this is an FP Journe watch, okay? This company makes maybe 17 of these watches, that's it. I want an NFT for this piece. I want it to be accredited, and I want it to have the serial number, the dial, the back movement, all of that in one NFT that guarantees my estate this is an authentic FP Journe. Right. In my view, that's a huge business, and so I think I'm one of the people on earth that could do this because I know all the manufacturers, all the CEOs, the horological societies in Geneva and New York. We have to work together to create the standard for that NFT, and that's what I'm doing, and I'm investing in that. For watches, it's a passion for me, but it's also a huge business opportunity. Every collector, and I know them all in the world, the big ones, the royal families, people that have hundreds of millions of dollars in watches, want their NFT for every single one of their pieces. I'm going to do that for them.
Well, that's an interesting space. I'm sure there's many people here at SALT that are also interested in watches. I know that much. Well, you're not the only man in finance into that.
Many use cases, but working with Jordan, and I became a shareholder in his business, because I want to have, I'm calling that business Wonder Trust. So it's going to be NFT.com/Wonder Trust, and you'll go there to create your watch NFT for your personal collection. And we can create these domains and have it personalized for you if you're a celebrity, if you're a large S&P brand, if you're a shoe company or whatever. We're going to be your partner because you're going to want NFT.com/put your brand here. That's the idea. And I think it's, look, like anything else, it's a nascent industry, but I want to participate there because I actually think over time it's going to be bigger than Bitcoin.
Well, you're hitting all the key topics at SALT this week because this is an alternatives conference. You're into all of it. I just wanted to highlight, we spoke a few minutes ago about you're on your 5th week of Money Court, premiering on CNBC, your new show. Yeah. Tell us about your favorite part of being on Money Court.
Money Court is not like typical, court shows where your cat's making too much noise and your neighbor's mad at you, and that's not what we do. We settle real litigants. They have sued each other. They sign an arbitration or a mediation contract. I mediate the case. I have a federal judge with me in Adipozo and an actual contract lawyer in Katie Fang. We look at the law, but ultimately I decide for them based on how do we keep the business alive. Yeah. And these people are really suing each other. They're not friends anymore.
This is real reality.
It's real. It's really is that. And so, I didn't know what to expect when we started the show. I thought the format was really intriguing. Now that we've shot the first season, it was a real adventure because we have people within families. A mother suing her daughter. Imagine if your mother sued you for your money. Like, that's because they had a contract and she's a rap star, and all of this stuff was happening. And I realized, okay, I've got to solve this for this family and try and connect this mother-daughter relationship together. But that's just a family business. We had real businesses suing each other. And I think in the way these things get solved is incredible television. It's really compelling television. And I remember I knew the show would be a hit when I looked over on the first day of taping, and all the technicians that normally are jaundiced, they don't care. They don't watch TV, they make TV. The sound people, the cameramen, you know, the lighting crew, they were glued to the feed monitor watching it. And one of the makeup artists came up to me after the break and said, I don't like what you did on that deal. You didn't give enough money to this litigant. She was totally engaged. I said, got a hit.
Well, because it really is, it's real life situations that I think the average at-home investor or retail person can empathize with or understand. They may have been in that situation before and not had a Mr. Wonderful to mediate for them.
You know, as one of the, I learned later from one of the producers that when they were signing their contract, their mediation contract, they said to the producer, I don't really like Mr. Wonderful, but I trust him. I would rather be trusted than win a popularity contest. And somehow over these years in America, I call it the way I see it, right? And sometimes people don't like it. They don't like the truth. I don't care. At the end of the day, it's still the truth. It's going to come and bite you in the hiney one day. And I think that's a good place to get to. But I think when this show is going to evolve into a really interesting place where litigation gets resolved in a pragmatic way. Because right now we're so jammed up in the courts because of COVID. If you file a motion, you may not get your case for 4 years. There's so many cases ahead of you. And a business gets destroyed in litigation over 4 years. Better to come to Mr. Wonderful in the money court. I'll solve it for you.
Well, I like that. It's relatable and real. We love seeing that, and I'm really enjoying the new show. So everyone, please check out Mr. Wonderful on his new show, Money Court, and everything he has coming out with WonderFi and The Trust. We want to learn more about these NFT watches.
Yes, stay tuned. That'll be coming. We're so, like everybody else in the NFT space, we're feeling our way. I'm crisscrossing the world, talking to collectors, talking to watchmakers, talking to the horological societies around the world and saying, let's build the standard together. Once we have it, let's start issuing the NFTs. And the first collection that's going to be turned into NFTs, mine. Number one.
Well, I look forward to seeing it. I don't know that much about watches, but I'll try to catch myself up between now and then.
When I'm finished with you, you will.
Love it. Thank you so much, Kevin.